All right, gas pressure, a gradient and a vacuum. In order to have a gas pressure gradient, you need a container so that a pressure gradient can first form. Now, in order to quote unquote debunk this, right, we have individuals like Dave McKeegan showing flat earthers that gas pressure is next to a vacuum. Now, when it comes to the term flat earthers, I am not a flat earther. I'm just a person who supports physics. So let's look at what Dave McKeegan. Let's do this 15-minute video. Let's see Dave McKeegan form a gas pressure gradient next to a vacuum. Okay, 2 minutes, 30 seconds in, no gas pressure gradient next to a vacuum. Simple diagrams, balloon diagram, simple diagrams. 7 minutes in, nothing but simple diagrams. Animations and CGI, fantastic. Okay, boom, that was pretty quick, wasn't it? This man put a 15, damn near 16-minute video together, and we just debunked it in less than a minute flat. Why? Because there's not a single experiment in this video. Welcome to science. Does science work despite the absence of experimentation? Is that how the scientific method has progressed? The title of this video is Showing Flat Earthers that Gas Pressure is Next to a Vacuum. And there is not one experiment in this video, okay? The funny thing is that all I did was type in pressure gradient in a vacuum, and that's the first one that I came up with. Okay, so let's continue. This one is just an individual showing what happens when you remove a container and how pressure moves up. Not relevant, particularly to this discussion. Crucible quantum eraser, no. Vacuum atmospheric pressure and its effects from elevation. How Earth's atmosphere doesn't escape into space.
Hey guys,
okay?
I'm John.
Let's go. Let's see. No examples, no experiment. No experiment. Okay. 12-minute video, no experiments. So, in case you're not picking up what I'm putting down, there's nobody in this world that is going to show you a naturally forming pressure gradient in an uncontained vacuum. Well, even a vacuum has to be contained, right? The conversation kind of gets a bit more complicated the further down you go. If you have a vacuum, you will never have a pressure gradient of gas existing next to it without a container. Period. That's why you will never see anybody demonstrate this. Google, what happens when you put gas into a vacuum? When gas is introduced into a vacuum, it will expand to fill the available space. The gas molecules, initially confined to a small volume, will move outward, eventually occupying the entire volume of the vacuum. Right? Because that's exactly what happens. That's why these individuals are claiming, flat earthers that is, are claiming, or just people in general, are making the claim that you cannot possibly have an atmospheric pressure gradient next to a vacuum.
How?
Because that's the part that doesn't make sense, right? Without a container, that's the part that doesn't make sense. So let's see what people had to say to Dave McKeegan. Vacuum doesn't suck, it just doesn't push back, okay? Futurama comments, dear Lord, that's over 150 atmospheres of pressure, kid making jokes. I've been waiting for a long time for a flat earther to explain why there's a pressure gradient in our atmosphere. I guess I will be waiting a lot longer for that. Because there's a container. That's the entire statement. A living reminder that I'm not as big of an idiot as I think. Okay, you just formed your scientific opinion based off of a video of hearsay. Absolutely not one example in the fucking phenomenal world. This would be a terrific explanation of gas pressure. Your science communication is next level. Yada yada yada. I love that you talk to flat earthers like they can actually understand basic concepts. So what we have here is a person that just made a video which does not demonstrate his claim one single fucking time. that people have turned into the classic, and that's why I'm showing this, because I want those who are aware enough to understand these things, to know that I share in those feelings that go through your mind of like, what is wrong with these people? Like, what is going through their heads? It's like they just can't be reasoned with. Again, you're never going to show somebody a gas pressure gradient forming in a vacuum. That's the whole point of saying that you need to have a container, because without the container, the gas immediately expands to fill the vacuum. You're not going to have something condensed down to form a star, for example, right? That's just not how it works. So when you have, not to mention, the argument goes a lot deeper than that. A vacuum just isn't a natural occurrence. There's no such thing as a naturally occurring vacuum, like a sustained, just natural fucking galactic vacuum. It's an entirely science fiction concept. The other thing is that if gravity were actually doing what it's said to do, you would easily demonstrate something like a gas pressure. You would demonstrate very strange occurrences in a vacuum chamber on the surface of the Earth with gas pressure in a vacuum. You'd see some strange things occur if gravity were actually acting on all of those molecules closest to the surface of the Earth, where the gravitational attraction is going to be strongest, where you've introduced an artificial vacuum so that gravity is really tugging on. Like, you would see some extremely interesting interactions within that vacuum chamber that you're never going to see. So, yep, this is the type of stuff that you want to watch out for. There was one more. Let's see. There was one more of these videos. Same type of guy. I had just... No. Here. Maybe if I go back through here. Here you can see the action of gas expanding into a vacuum. Vacuum, no vacuum. Vacuum, no vacuum. And boom, gas is expanding to fill a vacuum. Here, gas pressure next to a vacuum.
Hi, everyone.
Isn't it funny how it's another guy that's supposed to be debunking flat Earth? Like, why does it always come back to flat Earth? We're talking about vacuums and gas pressure gradients. Gas pressure next to a vacuum. Where's the demonstration? I mean, you already know how this is going to go, right? There's a reason that I came back to this video. Because nowhere in this video is there actually going to be a physical demonstration of a gas pressure gradient forming without a container next to a vacuum. It just doesn't happen like that. Okay. Much love.